Hi, today I want to show you QueryWeaver. It's a really cool open source project that we built on top of FalkorDB to help users like you create accurate SQL queries from natural conversational language on really complex database schemas without hitting LLM context limits or vendor lock-ins. I want to start very quickly by connecting QueryWeaver to a managed database on Aiven. Aiven essentially helps me to make it very simple to spin up a production-grade Postgres instance without dealing with servers, scaling, or maintenance. So I'm just going to grab the database URL, copy it, and paste it directly into QueryWeaver so that I can get started. I've gone ahead and I've already logged into the tool, but you will have to log in before you do this step. So just hitting Postgres, pasting the URL that I got from Aiven, and you'll see it's starting the database connection, and in a second we'll be ready to start talking with our database. One thing I do want to note whilst it's loading is that we're using a graph as our semantic layer to drive the query accuracy up dramatically. And there's graffiti embedded in the back to power the chat memory, if you will, to personalize the conversation and making it feel more natural and less robotic. So now essentially it's going to be loading the schemas into the tool. And before we jump right in, I'm just going to select my demo CRM. And I want to show you the power of this tool, where essentially it pulled all of the schemas from my database and it's representing them as a knowledge graph. So all of the different table schemas are connected, and it's a very powerful tool that allows it to essentially understand what it is I'm asking and then generate a query off of it. So let's start with a rather basic query and then move our way up to slightly more complex ones. So first I'm going to ask it to describe the users in this database. So as you would expect, it's analyzing what I've just asked in natural language, understanding what I want. And just before we move on to the next question, I'll show you that it's actually created the SQL query and it's executing it in order to fetch a result. It brought the result here. And then the third step each time is to actually generate a response in natural language that makes it very simple to understand. So it's actually pulled up all of the different accounts that we have here. And I'm just going to, let's role play, and I'll tell it, I am Peter Jones. So I'm establishing a little memory so that it's going to remember who I am, and everything I'm going to ask it from this point forward is essentially related to who it thinks I am in this session. Next, I want to ask it, what are my tasks? Again, analyzing what I asked in natural language will formulate an SQL query, run it, and return a response. Let's have a look. So referring back to the idea of memory, so it knows who I am, it remembered who I am, it understands the context of my question, and it understands that it now needs to essentially fetch the tasks that are related to Peter Jones, who I claimed to be before. So there's the task ID. It's supposed to be preparing a demo. That's really cool. And it is essentially also answering me in plain language. Now let's kick it up a notch a little bit and actually reset the conversation. And I'll show you that it actually remembers the conversations that we had because of the knowledge graph that runs in the back. So who am I? And what are my tasks? Again, the memory aspect here kicks into gear. It translated what I asked into an SQL query, ran it, and then it essentially it remembered that I was Peter Jones, and it fetched Peter Jones's tasks. So it does remember me, and it definitely works. Now let's kick it up a notch even further, and I'm going to actually challenge it with a question that's going to require it to look through several different tables and essentially conduct several different joins. So who are the customers with the highest and lowest sales volumes, and who is these companies' associated account manager? So if I had to write this query myself, it's probably going to take a lot longer than if I were using QueryWeaver. Perfect. So as we can see, quite a lengthy SQL query that it created off of my question. It executed it, and it actually returned, I would say, a pretty nice looking table that summarizes what I asked for. It returned the customer name, their sales volume. Excellent. And of course, it answers in like you would expect from a conversation. It's actually telling me that Pinnacle Finance has a total sales volume of so and who also is their account manager. So this demonstrates that if I had to do this myself, it's probably going to take me a lot longer than the 20 seconds this took by just asking QueryWeaver to go fetch this information in natural language. So to recap this demo, I think you should ask yourself, QueryWeaver might be right for you if your team responds to a lot of supposedly quick database analysis requests that are never quick. If you work with multiple databases that need connecting, and if your database essentially has hundreds of tables or the relationships that are important to your product, then this tool is something you should take a look at. It's open source. There's an MCP for it that you can start working with directly from your IDE. And there's also an API so that you can take it for a spin easily. Give it a star so that we can reach more developers, and connect with us on Discord if you have any questions. And that's it. Thanks for joining.